Good evening and welcome to Sheffield Live News. I'm Az Mohammed and these are today's headlines. First tonight, South Yorkshire Police were called to a robbery yesterday evening at a supermarket branch in Sharrow. The incident took place at Tesco Express on Sharrow Lane off London Road. Reports suggest two suspects were supposedly involved, a man and a woman, but it's not yet known if they took off with any cash items during the robbery. Police were also unable to confirm whether or not firearms were used. Anyone with any information should call the police on 101. Sheffield City Council have been given the go-ahead for a new bridge to be built over the River Don at Kelham Island. The bridge is intended to provide pedestrians and cyclists with an easier route from Ball Street to the famous museum, as well as offering those using the bridge wonderful wildlife views and of the works, which is being transformed into new apartments and restaurants. The news comes as Sheffield is in a key stage of development, with the Castle Markets being transformed, the more welcoming new restaurants, shops and a cinema, as well as a Chinatown currently in construction. Rotherham City Council are cracking down on the misuse of blue badges after another successful prosecution in the Rotherham Town Centre. Linda Lewis, aged 51 of Jardine Close, Sheffield, pleaded guilty in court for using her mother's blue badge. When inquiries were made at the time of the offence, Linda claimed she had dropped her mother off at Tesco and was on her way to collect her. An investigation later proved that her mother was at home and had not used the badge all day. Lewis appeared before Rotherham magistrates on Monday the 25th of January and was fined £125 with £180 costs and £20 victim surcharge. Rotherham councillor Denise Lilliot said, "This is a further example of a blue badge being used for the convenience of people who are not entitled to use them." She also added, "Drivers need to consider whether it's worth risking a criminal record to avoid putting 50p or a pound in a pay and display machine. If we catch drivers using blue badges without the named holder present, we will prosecute where it is in the public interest to do so." Sheffield Tramlines is back once again this summer, and many will be excited at who is headlining the event this year. Some of the talents so far on the bill are Dizzy Rascal, Dawn Penn, Field Music and Little Sims. The annual event will run across multiple venues between July 22 and 24th. Tickets for the festival are on sale now, and 2016 will bring an introduction of individual day and night tickets to cater to a wider audience. And on to sport now, and both Sheffield teams are in action this weekend. Wednesday will play Birmingham away, whilst United welcome Wigan Athletic to Bramall Lane. Both teams are hoping to secure a win to help them seek promotion. Barnsley also play this evening away to Fleetwood Town in the Football League Trophy semi-final at the Highbury Stadium. Now, it's time for the weather with Catherine Smiles.
It'll be patchy tonight with outbreaks of rain. Cloudy with strong winds tomorrow and heavy rain in the afternoon. Heavy showers with sunny intervals over the weekend.
Welcome along again. I'm delighted to say that we've got a lot of goals in the studio here at Sheffield Live tonight. Sitting on the two sofas here, we have a precise tally, well, over 300 goals in fact. I think to be precise, we've got 316 goals in this studio this evening. I wish I'd got even one of them. John Pearson, ex-Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds United. Keith Edwards, ex-Sheffield United and Leeds United, and it coincides that the one season, Keith, that you spent at Elland Road, you had him to put up with.
Yeah, it was nice. I was pleased to see him. He was, I mean, to be fair, John did a bit better than me on that time, but he come and took my place. So I wasn't expecting that. I think we were brought to play together, but at the time I wasn't playing too well, and he likes to remind me of that as well.
And how nice of you not to chip in when I said it was 316 goals, to say that you scored all bar
315.
I reckon my total
all bar 60.
306, so well done for getting them 10.
Well, I don't know if it counts in the second and third and fourth division, does it?
God, we've had that answer a few times, haven't we?
We've got a lot to talk about, not least the contrasting fortunes of the two Sheffield clubs at the moment. Keith Edwards is a professional summariser on Radio Sheffield. He's getting a slightly reduced fee for being here tonight.
Paid what he's worth.
Yeah, slightly, yeah. A standard post-programme fee across the road in the pub if you wish to partake. And John Pearson, well, in fact, you work on Sheffield Wednesday. You've got a little job on hospitality at Hillsborough. You're also on the commentary team, aren't you, with Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah, we do the home games on the Wednesday Player, which is not working really well this year. The service has been really poor, but
technical
problems, nothing to do with the club. But anyway, let's hope that's sorted out as ASAP. And then back on the radio again. Been doing that for the last 2 seasons, but not just me. It's spread out. I seem to get the Brighton on a Tuesday. I don't know why Brighton Laws don't fancy that, but for some reason, I get all those long trips.
You get all the long trips, yeah.
I think Brighton's got Birmingham on Saturday. So.
Oh, that's close enough for him, is it?
That'd be nice,
yeah. So these two guys here, they know what they're talking about. They watch the Blades and the Owls on a regular basis, so you're a fount of all knowledge. Just before we talk about that, just that one season at Leeds, I mentioned it briefly. Did you form an effective partnership? I was thinking you'd be about right, the big guy and the little poacher.
Well, yeah, it was fine. As I've already conceded that I didn't play too well that season, but I did chip in with a few goals. The good thing about playing with John whenever he took me place was I always knew we weren't going to score and he was going to come off. That allowed me to go on and score. Yeah. So I got a little bit of glory through that. But no, we did well, and we would if Leeds possibly had a slightly different style of play, I think we would have both benefited from that.
Right.
But we couldn't have changed Leeds. There was too many great players then, John Sheridan, Snoddins and people like that. David Batty was another one in midfield. So yeah, that was just one of them things that happens in football. But we travelled together, we had a good time, we had a good laugh, and we've been pals ever since.
I can see that. 86-87 was that season. Billy Bremner was manager.
Yeah.
Each manager has his own style. The ball wasn't getting forward very quickly, I seem to remember. There was a lot of good passing.
It was different for me because it sort of went through me at Sheffield United, and it was more direct. But with Leeds, as I once asked David Batty, is the goal on the wing? Because we always seem to pass it sideways.
Yeah.
Very similar to today's football.
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a patient build-up, whether it suited me or John. I mean, to be fair, we've still got plenty of crosses in, and overall, we didn't do too bad together. So.
Yeah, I enjoyed that time. It was, it was really good. I mean, if I wasn't playing up front with Keith, I was playing up front with Ian Baird. And Ian Baird was sort of a mixture of me and Keith. He was like a hard man, but he could do the Keith's bit as well. But I just found that when I was there, that I was doing doggies across the 18-yard box, because once I'd gone there waiting for the cross, it got past and went round the other side. So then I'm going back to the other side, and in the end, you started getting fed up because the ball's not coming in. And so I didn't think we did get enough crosses in. And I used to say, look, I know what we'll do. Let's do something different. Let's cross the balls in a few times. I'll let it down. Either Keith or Baird will score, and then I'll come off or whatever, and then you can start playing all your football and stuff like that and do the fancy stuff. But nobody really listened to that.
No. Well, you've come off the bench again tonight. It really is. Ross the Boss Birkinshaw, boxer, was due in. Both you two guys are second timers in the studio. Really, really grateful when people come back. You've been saying ever since you arrived here, you're never going to do it again. ever, ever, ever.
That was only joke. I just had a stressful day. So don't forget we have to work.
Yeah, you've been driving, yeah?
Yeah.
Long distances?
No, not too far.
Not too far
today. For about 2 hours.
Have you? What, at the wheel? At the wheel?
I've done that once and it didn't work out right well.
Right, now, people will think I've brought you in tonight as a hatchet man, because things aren't going great at Sheffield United, to say the least at the moment. The truth is, we arranged this a few weeks ago. Just so happens you're Johnny on the spot, as you often were on the field of play, to talk about maybe, first of all, overall 8th in the table. That's not good enough, is it, in anybody's language?
No, to be fair, it's not. Entertainment value has been pretty basic as well. I still think we've got an opportunity to get there and playoffs and put people under pressure. This manager is very well known for having a good second half of the season. I just think personally, I think the team lacks a bit of pace, and we haven't got goals from midfield, and that puts an awful lot of pressure on Billy Sharp, who I think is having a great season. He's working his socks off, scoring goals, looks a real natural. So I'm enjoying some of it, but as you say, it's a tad frustrating when you look at the teams at the top, such as Burton, Gillingham, and teams like that, and you think, well, we should be above them. But you know what? We have to produce it, and we've got the biggest squad. Whether we've got the best players or not, I'm not quite sure, or whether that big squad actually puts you under pressure. You know, when you look at the likes of Burton, they will not have half the players that we've got. Well, maybe that suits them, because they're not under pressure of losing the place.
I noticed Port Vale, managed by Rob Page, have climbed above Sheffield United now.
Yeah, so. I think Rob's done a fabulous job there. I think you take into account what he can spend, the pressure he's under. He's never going to really do fabulous with Port Vale. He's never going to get him out of that division, I don't think, personally. If he does, then he deserves a top job somewhere down the line. But we need to get a run going. I think we are capable. I've changed my mind that many times this season. It's unreal, because it's just 1 minute I think we've turned the corner, next minute we'll have a poor result at home as well. I think it's the home form that's let us down.
Okay, we'll talk more about this weekend's home game against Wigan, and we'll talk to JP about Wednesday, and by comparison everything's rosy in the garden there at the minute. But just briefly, first of all, let's get your take on the Blades, John. I know that you don't see them, but you see the results and you see the league table position. What do you think? Are you surprised or what?
Well, looking from the outside, I know that there's two misconceptions that I can put right. Everybody thinks that me and Keith fight each other every time we see each other, but Keith actually came to my wedding as an usher when I got married. So me and Keith have been friends a long time. And the other thing is, I would love Wednesday United to be in the same league, and I hope, which I would wish, would be the Premiership.
Well, he would say he'd love you to be in the same league as well. He'd want Wednesday in League One with you. That's what he'd say.
No.
I would go the other way. I think the Championship is a fabulous division.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really tough division to say who's going to try and pick 3 winners out of this week's games. It's really tough. But I agree with John. We need to be up there, and it's us who's letting Sheffield down a little bit.
But obviously, I would want Wednesday to win both games 6-0, and United to finish 4th bottom, so they didn't go down again, and us to finish. Well, if we win the Premiership, so.
But you've got to be looking across the city, thinking. I mean, pre-season, I'm guessing even Owls would think.
Yeah.
They're going up.
You'd think when Nigel Adkins came in, I thought, United have got a really good chance, and I'm not saying they haven't, because I really don't follow United. I follow United as much as I follow Tranmere Rovers or anybody else. So I don't. The only delight I get is I've got mates with Unitedites, and I can have a good banter with them. So I see them on a Saturday night and have a laugh at them. Yeah. But apart from that, it doesn't matter to me. I wish we were both in. I wish that all the local sides, Leeds, Barnsley, wish we were all up there. We should be the powerhouse, not Manchester, where you've got Man United, Man City, you've got Liverpool, Everton. Well, it should be across here. I wish it was.
We'll get Keith on Blades in some depth in a bit. But first of all, on Owls, you made an admission before the programme about...
I don't mind. I don't have a problem with that. I think they're punching above the weight. I mean, you might disagree with that, because you might expect that they're going to be thereabouts, but I personally didn't see that coming at all. I thought it was...
So why do you think we're punching above our weight?
Because I didn't... I didn't like the manager, the appointment of the manager, because his previous record wasn't good. And there's no reason for me to think that you were going to be in the top 6, because you hadn't been there before. So you haven't been pushing on the door for a few seasons to get into the playoffs, and so therefore I think most people are fairly surprised. But I liked what you said earlier on about having pals as I've got a lot of pals who are Wednesdayites, and it's funny how that works out. And it's great having banter with them. I would always want the banter between Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. But they've said there's great energy in that club, with the players, and he's got them going forward. So credit to him. I'll hold my hands up and say that I didn't see that coming. But and they are doing well. Whether they can push it that little bit further and all about the playoffs and how difficult it is.
I reckon they're punching their weight on what they've spent. They're where they should be, and there's power to
Yeah, they've spent a few quid.
They've spent a lot. And Gary Hooper now then, one of the most recent signings, £3 million plus from Norwich. You saw one of his very early games at Scunthorpe, for BBC Radio Sheffield.
Yeah,
and what did you say at the time?
Little claim to fame. 25 minutes into the game, I said, "What a player!" I think he'd come from Southend for 100,000, which was a lot for Scunthorpe, to be fair. I just thought he was a fabulous player. And I said at the time, just go out and sign him.
See a bit of yourself in him?
No, I was a lot quicker. Because I think the reason why I mentioned that was not to, to bull me up. It was to basically to make the point. I think if he had pace, I think he would be shooting. Well, he would be doing what at Leicester and knocking goals in as such, something like that. And I think he's a great signing for Wednesday, and I think he's a lovely little player. He links up, he brings people into the game, and he's got a good. He finishes goals, and that's what you need. That's what wins matches. I wish people would remind Sheffield United about that, because we don't have enough of that.
Right, we'll get on to that in a moment.
Okay.
Get on to it now, in fact. How much is what goes on off the field? Does that affect what goes on the field? Because it's all a little bit of a mystery, and the board have taken a lot of flack following the failure to bring anybody in during the transfer window. Now, I find that flack understandable, because I think journalists were led to believe, and via us, supporters were led to believe, there would be signings, there was money available. The board say that bids were made that weren't accepted for players. We've only got their word for that.
Yeah.
So to what extent was Nigel Adkins hampered, if at all? How do you read it, the failure to bring anybody in during the window?
Well, you've got to appreciate what the manager says, and he may have bid for 3 players, but trying to come to that division, if they're coming from a higher division, then you're basically asking a lot. Players today, I think in mine and John's time, you would have moved. If you weren't playing, you would be looking to get a move. And I didn't mind dropping a division to be playing and then get back up there. I was fine with that. I think players today just enjoy being part of a bigger club in a higher division and just not actually playing. I think that, to me, that's the impression I always get. I might be wrong on that, but I feel for Nigel on that side of it. But I also look at it and think, well, we have one of the biggest squads in that division.
Wow.
We just haven't signed the right players prior to him coming.
Yeah, it just strikes me, and I wrote about this in my column this week, that there appeared to be, it's a matter of interpretation, but there appeared to be a thinly veiled attempt to lay some of the blame, or a lot of the blame for this, at Nigel Clough's door, a manager who led the club right up the league, who reached 2 semi-finals or whatever, and I didn't think that was fair. I don't think that's fair. I thought he was very harshly sacked. But you may have a different view. I don't know. What's your view?
I think his style of football was poor. It bored me. And yes, you mentioned the semi-finals, and yes, we went down to QPR and won 3-0, and we went down to West Ham, but we also got beat at home to teams like Fleetwood, Shrewsbury. Now, that's not good enough. That doesn't get you promotion. All we ever talked about is priorities. Priorities wasn't the cup. Priorities was the league, and to be consistent and to beat teams fairly easy at home and get promotion. And at your home games is always vital. That's what wins you promotion at the end of the season.
Nigel Clough brought those players in. Had he still been in charge, would he have been getting more out of them than
you can go on
the manager changed?
Football today changes every 5 minutes. If we'd have kept Danny Wilson, I don't think we would have been any worse off. If we would have kept Mickey Adams, I think we would have been where we are now.
You're right.
So football today, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I don't feel for managers too much, because they just move on, get paid off and get another job. But I think it creates a lot of problems with moving players on. That's why you end up with a huge squad, because the manager can turn around and say, well, 5 and 6 of these are not my players and I would like to get rid. But we can't always get rid of them.
It's not easy to sort this problem out. People think there's a solution. Nobody out there knows what the solution is, do they? I mean, you don't either, do you?
No. That's why I mentioned the likes of Burton. They might have a lot smaller squad, a lot less problems, and the players are more content, and they know where they are. They know they're going to be playing the following week, even if you have a bad game and whatever. And they seem to have that little bit of spirit between them.
Too many manager changes, though. You've gone through them.
Yeah.
You know, one direction, another direction. And if you're not careful, back in another direction. Now, I mean, you've got to back Nigel Atkins, sure,
Yes,
on his
of
record.
course, yeah.
There should be no issue or question about that, sure.
Give him, we always say, don't we, we would like to have 3 years, and if he hasn't improved it by 3 years, then I think people get frustrated.
Fair enough.
But it's got down to 18 months and even less.
Yeah, well, he's had one transfer window, effectively, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, he may not have made the right decisions
in,
last summer.
You know, but you've still got to question some of the players that have come in, because we're not producing it week in, week out. We're not in the top 6, so there's a question mark over him. But that doesn't mean we change the manager. Give him a little bit more time to change that around. I think anybody involved in a football club, I mean, John's still involved in a club, I'm not. They would tell you how difficult it is to turn everything round. How much I would like to move half a dozen of those players, bring half a dozen in, and then so on. And then do that again later on, possibly the following season.
Yeah. Okay, Keith. More depth on Sheffield United v Wigan and one or two other thoughts on the playing side of the club to come in the second half. Nigel Atkins, Carlos Carvalho, John, just briefly before the break. The owner, Dapon Chansiri, made a point when he made this very surprising appointment, which is turning out to be quite an inspired one, that he wasn't going to reveal contract details. So we didn't know that. Carlos this week has been asked about it, I think by my colleague Dom Howson. He's a very positive journalist for the Sheffield Star, always goes for the positives if he can, but we have to be objective and look at both sides. He was asked about the contract and Carlos won't discuss it. And so some might find that sinister. Personally, I don't, as I wrote today. What's your interpretation?
I think Carlos has got certain standards and certain topics that he refuses to speak on. You know, so I think as a journalist then, if he says he doesn't speak about injuries, he doesn't speak about referees, although he just made a slight exception on Saturday, I think, you know, and he had every right to do so. Yeah. I think he's been a breath of fresh air, to be fair. You know, and I can imagine that the way he is, the players really love playing for him. That's how it seems to me. It seems to me that he gives them a little bit of freedom and they go out and do that. But then also there's that bit of organisation when they haven't got the ball. And I think he's pulled the club together. Not that Stuart Gray, I thought Stuart Gray was outstanding. You know, I think when he took over we needed snookers and the club was in a bad position at that point. I think Dave Jones had put a dark cloud over it, to be fair, that Stuart Gray lifted from day one. And you know, like you're talking about, you've got a certain group of players. Well, Stuart had the same group of players to work with, and he turned them around. And last year we were, you know, upper mid-table sort of thing, and he worked miracles with the squad that he'd got. And I think money does change football. You know, you look at Sheffield United. If somebody came in with that amount of money, the standard in the Championship is far greater than League One. I would hate ever to go back into that league. And just the standard of football is so totally different. And this season, we're seeing a totally different standard from what we saw last year. I mean, this is possibly the best Sheffield Wednesday side that I've seen play. Because obviously when we got the...
Apart from the one you played in?
Apart from the one I played in, obviously, we would have beaten them about 6 or 7.
But since you're talking since that golden period.
I'm talking about the teams that I've. But I didn't see that team because I was still playing.
Of course.
So I didn't actually watch that team. I was, you know, I think I finished in '95, so I missed that golden era there. You know, and possibly, Sheffield Wednesday were possibly better then, or probably were better.
Thanks, John. There's a lot more of this to come. Thanks, Keith. Memories, but also looking pretty much at the present day. James Gregg will be here to round up all the other sporting action as well. Do rejoin us in around about 5 minutes. Look forward to your company then. See you.